Good evening, everyone. Before calling the special council meeting to order for December 19th, I'd like to acknowledge and respectfully acknowledge on behalf of council and the community that the city of Pembroke resides on the unceded traditional territory of the Algonquin people. We thank the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. It is with the statement that we honor and respect the Algonquins on whose land we reside. I call this meeting to order, and at this time I would ask everyone please stand for an opening prayer and or reflection. Before opening this meeting of council, I would ask those who wish, each in your own way, silently join in a prayer of guidance over these proceedings. Thank you. Please be seated. Are there any disclosure of pecuniary interest in relation to this special meeting of council? Seeing none. At this time, I understand, Councillor Keel, you have a motion to move into closed session.
Motion for council to move into caucus meeting on December 19th, 2023, moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Purcell, that this meeting become a closed meeting to discuss labor relations or employee negotiations as per the Municipal Act, Section 239, Sub 2, Sub D, regarding QP Local 24 labor negotiations.
Unruh. Moved by Councillor Keel, seconded by Councillor Purcell. The meeting become a closed meeting to discuss labor relations or employee negotiations as per the Municipal Act, Section 239, Sub 2, Sub D, regarding QP Local 24 negotiations. Those in favor? That is carried. We'll now move into a closed session. Thank you. Thank you. A council and caucus meeting was held earlier to discuss labor relations or employee negotiations as per the Municipal Act, Section 239, Sub 2, Sub D, regarding QP Local 24 labor negotiations. No pecuniary interest was declared. Staff was given direction to prepare a report listing the terms of the new agreement with QP Local 24 as discussed in closed session and bring to a public meeting of committee/council for consideration. Confirming bylaw, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Ed Jacquino, that bylaw 2029-2023 to confirm the proceedings of the special meeting of council of December 19th, 2023 be adopted and passed, and further, that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation.
Moved by the Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Jacquino, the bylaw 29-2023, confirm the proceedings of a special meeting of council for December 19th, 2023 be adopted and passed, and further that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Those in favor? That is carried. And a motion to adjourn the special meeting of council. I have the Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Keel. Those in favor? We are adjourned. Thank you.
Good evening. I'd like to call the City of Pembroke Parks and Recreation Committee meeting of Tuesday, December 19th to order. The land acknowledgement was read earlier tonight, so I'd like to recognize that. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof? Seeing none. A few words from the mayor before we get started to item 4. Thank you. Mayor?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good evening, members of this Parks and Recreation Committee. The first item, and I don't believe it's going to be an issue this evening because I see that the only member in the audience is Mr. Blockstein, and I've never witnessed Mr. Blockstein being rowdy, but with all seriousness, it's been brought to my attention, and this is for the benefit because a number of us are chairs, obviously, of different committees. It's been brought to my attention by staff that at times that there are members that sit in the gallery that are disruptive. Staff are having a hard time hearing us. So when you're sitting way up at the front, sometimes it's kind of hard to know that someone is being disruptive at the back. But if staff are having a hard time, then they can't give us the great advice that they give us. And so I'm bringing this to everyone's attention so that if it happens in the future, if someone can, if whoever's chairing it doesn't witness it or doesn't see it, if someone can bring it to their attention, and then it'll be up to the chair whether the person is warned or excused or whatever takes place. But clearly, it makes it very difficult to conduct a meeting when there's no respect for the chamber. So that's the first item. The second item was, again, something that was brought to my attention at the special meeting of council, and it has to do with use of electronic devices. And so while I was one of the proponents early on to switch and start using electronic devices and save some trees and so forth, the procedural bylaw is clear that it's for the purposes of reviewing the agenda package and following along and doing that sort of thing. And so it was brought to my attention last time that some materials were, as we all know, they were in writing. There was a thick package having to do with services, and someone was taking photos of things and sending it somewhere and then communicating with whoever the person was. So I don't know about the rest of you, but certainly who is elected is the individuals around this table, and that's who at least that's who I expect to be dealing with, and not members of the public in the gallery or members somewhere else that I don't even know who they are. And then, like I said, it is in 5.5.3 of this rules of procedural bylaw in terms of what we're supposed to do. So I'm just drawing that to attention. So it's tough being a chair because you're trying to make sure that everyone has their say, has their opportunity. That's staff is recognized when I'm getting nods or Madam Chair is getting nods and so forth. But in addition, we're going to start to I guess have to police what individuals are doing, and that's not very nice. But I guess is what it is. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mayor. Could I have a motion to approve the meeting agenda? Moved by Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Keel. All in favor? Approved. The Parks and Recreation Committee minutes of November 21st were circulated. Are there any errors or omissions? Motion to approve, Councillor Jackno, seconded by Councillor Keel. All in favor? Minutes are approved. Any business arising from those minutes? Seeing none. New business. We have Mr. DeRoche from the Parks and Rec Waterfront Committee request. And I believe you have a guest.
Yes, I do. Thank you, and good evening. So the recommendation for this report is that the Parks and Recreation Committee approve, number one, that the City of Pembroke issues a revised invoice for 2023 waterfront gardener from $19,402 to $9,701. Two, that for the next 5 years, the Pembroke Petawawa District Community Foundation and City of Pembroke would share 50% of the waterfront gardener costs. The foundation would continue to employ one summer student in partnership with the Pembroke Horticultural Society. And number three, that the City of Pembroke hires an additional summer student to support the waterfront grounds and maintenance and pays any remaining costs not covered by available summer employment grants for this summer employment. As everyone around this table is probably well aware, the Millennial Waterfront Project has recently turned 25 years, and that had begun in 1998 under the leadership of Fred Blackstein, who is with us tonight and will be speaking shortly. So in the report, it speaks to tens of thousands of volunteer hours have supported these projects, and that is quite literally true. There's been thousands upon thousands of hours to ensure that all these community-driven projects that now residents and tourists enjoy have been able to enjoy and continue to enjoy. So Fred is here with us tonight, and he will be speaking to the legacy and the work that has been completed and the future of the funds. Before we call Fred up, I just wanted to cover a couple financial implications here, and just want to talk a bit about the additional student. So this additional student would also help or assist the Parks and Recreation Department. In speaking with Fred and the Waterfront Committee, it was noted that they struggle trying to hire people at that time of year, and it's generally in the middle of June. And I know from our own experience in the Parks and Recreation Department, it's extremely difficult to get students at that time of year. We typically hire our students, end of April, beginning of May, and typically when students are finished school, they want to get right into their employment. We also transition from arenas to parks. That's a really busy time for our department, so the support there would be certainly helpful. Funding for the additional students would be sought after by the Pembroke Horticultural Society, and if in the event that they weren't able to secure any funds, the cost to the city would be $10,765, and this would include the salary and the benefits. The position would be based on 560 hours, so that's the total amount of hours that we base our own full-time students on. And the additional costs have been added to the 2004 operating budget, just so that council will see it come the budget deliberations. So without further ado, I'm going to call up Mr. Fred Blackstein, and he's going to give a report to council. Thank you.
I would note for the record, he's very well behaved in the gallery. Thank you, Jordan. Madam Chair, members of council. So I would first acknowledge that Councillor Abdallah, Deputy Mayor, and Councillor Keel are members of the Waterfront Advisory Committee, and we have been meeting on and off several times since we were here reporting last. I don't think I need to take more than just a minute or two to remind this group what the Waterfront Park has become. Each of you, when you have company, take them there as something they have to do. People go to church on Sunday, and then they all come to the waterfront. There's nowhere to park anymore. The place is just too busy. One of the most significant things that happened in the last 25 years since the park began was that about 6 or 8 years ago, the Bouchard Gardens in British Columbia recognized the Pembroke Waterfront Park as the best land reclamation project in all of North America. If you Google the Pembroke Waterfront Park or look on any of the travel websites, Travelocity, Wayfinder, you will find hundreds of 5-star reviews on the Pembroke Waterfront Park. As Jordan explained during the intro, it really was built, in the words of the late Bill Higginson, by the people, for the people. When the park was initiated almost 25 years ago, a group of citizens met at the request of then Mayor and Council Les Scott to look at what might be done to celebrate the millennium. We decided that we would try and do something that would be useful to everyone, from a single parent on social support to a millionaire. And it didn't take a whole lot of time and a whole lot of meetings to decide that that was a jewel in the waiting. So fast forward to the current time. We had a couple of significant donations that came into the Pembroke Community Foundation, and I will do a brief commercial noting that this foundation is there for everyone in the city of Pembroke and surrounding townships, and supports a variety of causes. We had one couple, I was going to say elderly, but they're younger than I am, one elderly couple who came to the park every day, not from here. They had come from the Deep River area and decided to retire in Pembroke to be closer to healthcare facilities, etc. Asked me if I would be the executor of their will some years ago, and I agreed, and then realized what an error that was, so we turned that over to the Community Foundation. Approximately $400,000 was put into the foundation from this couple. They first donated $100,000 well before the Arboretum came along, and then put another $240,000 in. We've been using that primarily to pay for the waterfront gardener. Now, most of you who've been at the park have met our waterfront gardener and recognize that this is a phenomenal resource. She is also the ambassador for the park. those hundreds of people that come down to the park every week usually meet with her and the team, and she gives them all of the background of how the project came, recommends where to have lunch, where various shops and groceries are. The PBIA should actually be giving her a significant honorarium each year for what she does. Basically, we are now at the point where we have $100,000 left in the estate trust. 100,000, give or take $1,000, that's the number. I think it's 103,462 to be precise. If we pay the invoice that we got, each year we get an invoice from the city, and my compliments for managing our staff in the sense that the summer students and the waterfront gardener are employees of the city of Pembroke. We pay for it through the Pembroke Court Society and or the Community Foundation, but having them as employees of the city means that UI, WSIB, et cetera, are all looked after through the city, and all of the training that comes with the summer students is also done through the city. So that partnership is working extremely well. I should also note that the Parks and Rec Department have been a phenomenal partner to the committee in everything we've done there. And I think we're the people that are on the ground there every day, the volunteers and our waterfront gardener, and recognize it's not so much a short staffing issue, it's an issue of how busy the place is that has taxed Parks and Rec staff to the limit. But we try and work with them, and I have to compliment particularly Joe Brown, who was there yesterday for everything we asked for. It happens yesterday. And Deputy Mayor and Councillor Keel have been participating in the waterfront advisory committees, and we try and make it clear at those committee meetings what a phenomenal partnership it is. This extra summer student that Jordan has mentioned would be, I think, a huge help to Parks and Rec, and then in addition to our student, would allow things to get started a little earlier each year. We've come up with a way, I believe, to replace the aged yellow Jeep that's been a hallmark of the waterfront project for 20 years. I should note, you should have left, Councillor Giacono, there's a pecuniary interest problem because Councillor Giacono mentioned he has an older four-wheel drive truck that might be for sale. But in any event, we think we've got everything under control for the summer in terms of way to continue irrigating the gardens, and we brought that to the attention of the Waterfront Advisory Committee as well. So basically, it was articulated quite specifically. What we're looking for is that invoice that was issued for just under $20,000 for this year be reconsidered and begin sharing the costs for this current year and then going forward. That $100,000, if we go it alone as the foundation, that will run out in 2 years and a little bit. And if we start the partnership now 50-50, I'm confident we can stretch that out now for 5 years. And in particular, going back to the foundation and to some of the granting organizations, because the first thing they say to you, who are your partners? We would be able to say our partner is the City of Pembroke in for 50% of this whatever it's going to be, student. If we try and get another grant to help support the waterfront gardener, we can fill out the application that one of our partners is the City of Pembroke at 50%. So I don't think I need to take much more time up, but basically I'm confident that we can make it right through to 2030, because with these partnerships and some additional grants and a little bit more support perhaps from the foundation, who gets money for unspecified things. Not every donation that comes into the foundation is specified. So I do see this going comfortably to 2030 and lots of time to plan for the distant future. I should note that partnerships have been crucial. When the boardwalk was rebuilt after 16 seasons, most boardwalks in places like Atlantic City are rebuilt every 12 years for due diligence issues. We went for 16 years and then rebuilt the boardwalk. The quotes were in the order of $300,000 to do it commercially, because it's the biggest deck in the province of Ontario. It's 1,000 feet long and 16 feet wide with 2,000, and these are 2x6s. These aren't deck boards at 5 quarters. Everyone came to the table. The college put a program together with 34 young people, and the Ministry of Labor contributed. The lumber companies donated everything, and the entire work was done in something like 30 days at virtually no cost to the city because of partnerships. So I think this bodes well for the future. The Arboretum is not the subject of this evening, but I would just note that we're doing quite well financially. Kiwanis and the Hort Society each put forward $25,000. A number of other donations come in. I do have to do a shout out to people like Home Depot, who came down with their team and built the gazebos, to McRae Excavating, particularly, who came down and did all the heavy lifting for the fountain. So basically, the proposal as outlined by Mr. DeRoche is very specific, and we'd be very comfortable going forward for the indefinite future with that. So I'm open to any questions, and
We have Councillor Keel, I believe, first.
So Jordan, are we looking to approve this today, or is this a heads up in terms of budget time? And then I do have more to say about it.
Yeah, through the chair, a good question. So we would be looking to approve this today.
So I think at the end of the day, you know, Mr. Blackstein, one of Pembroke's few recipients of one of our country's highest honor, the Order of Canada. If everyone could see how he runs this waterfront park, this is a public-private partnership, frankly, that every community would be blessed to have helping run one of their main recreation parks. At the end of the day, I am mindful. You know, I am mindful of the cost to the community, and that's why I am so behind the proposal that Mr. Blackstein came up from, which is a shared partnership. He's not just saying we're going to drop you. Certainly, if the treasurer was here, we had an asset management program earlier this year in Eganville, where one of the things they warned us were, you know, beware of gifts that end up costing you money down the way. This isn't being dropped on us. This is something that has been nurtured. This is something that's been grown. And now we have Mr. Blackstein coming here, not just to drop it on us, but with a plan on how we can extend it through the decade. So I think at the end of the day, if I'm correct, Jordan, I guess we're looking at about $10,000 for the summer student, and then approximately $10,000 a year for the 50-50 split. If somebody doesn't think that our marina and park and whatnot is worth that, I'd love to hear from them in terms of their explanations. So I certainly hope this will be supported by the council. I know the deputy mayor sits with me on the waterfront committee, and mostly Mr. Blackstein. I'm just impressed and want to thank you for coming to us with a plan on how to make this work, as opposed to just throwing it at the city, which I don't think you would ever do, but I know that's sometimes what we get, and that can make all the difference, in my opinion.
Sorry. Councillor Purcell was next. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Blackstein and Jordan. We appreciate that. First of all, I just want to say thank you very much for all you've done for our community. I know that you're heavily involved, of course, in many, many different activities. One is, of course, your passion is the waterfront park, but also in terms of the warming center and getting that established through PACT as well. And I know that you've been working diligently behind the scenes to get that up and running. So I do thank you from the bottom of my heart. I think it makes sense in terms of this 50-50 partnership. I do believe that, you know, when I was down at Canada Day and Multicultural Festival, the gardens are spectacular. The feedback that I received from many out-of-town individuals that came to visit Pembroke said, what a jewel that we have, and it was so obvious. That being said, I know my morning started with helping lifting picnic tables off the back of a half-ton, and also putting out trash receptacles to assist staff. So there's a definite need for more support, and I know that there's you know, hard to find staff on weekends and those kinds of things for these types of events. So I think this does make sense, and for, you know, a small contribution of $20K per year, knowing the value in terms of what we have there through contributions from people like yourself, Fred, and, you know, the many contributions of community members and businesses. It's a small price to pay, so I really think that this is a great partnership. And again, I thank you for all your efforts. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor?
Well, before I make a motion, I just want to thank you again, Fred, under your leadership and your committee and the Horticultural Society, Kiwanis Club, everyone involved. Phenomenal jewel, as we call it. The only thing I'm sad about, Fred, is the retirement of your old Jeep there. I feel sorry for you, but I'm sure you'll find a good resting place for it. So I'd like to motion that we accept the 3 recommendations from the Parks and Rec Committee.
Motion on the floor, seconded by Councillor Jackno. Further comments?
I may speak, Madam Chair. Thank you very much, gentlemen. I've had the opportunity to be at Bouchard Gardens. I've seen it, and to have you know, an accolade from that particular organization to a small community such as ours, you know, really means a lot, if not nationally, but internationally. The waterfront attracts people from everywhere in the world. This past summer, I had the opportunity to meet a chap from Japan, Osaka, on his bicycle traveling across the country, stopped here. Ironic that somebody from the land of the rising sun would be watching a beautiful sunset, you know, in the land of the setting sun. And he told me how beautiful the setting was, and that he had researched us on the net. So this is one of the places he wanted to stop. So again, the Deputy Mayor and I have met a lady from Val-d'Or, very French, couldn't speak English. Yeah. We were directing her in our, well, you and your wonderful French, and myself and my broken Parisian French. But they stopped, and they couldn't believe the beauty of what exists in a small community such as this. So I certainly would be in favor of promoting and to continue to promote a thing of beauty that draws people, and it produces great economic development, because that chap from Japan was staying in a motel. He was eating out, and it snowballs. Thank you.
I just like to say a few things from the chair before we call the vote. What can I say about Fred? That can't be said. So I'm just going to say this very quickly, and that this community has been so fortunate. It seems that anything that Fred touches turns to gold. He's had the torch. He's been carrying this torch for the city and many other organizations for so long that, unfortunately, unless he's tapped into some kind of special fountain of youth and plans on carrying on for another 100 years, we are going to have to make sure that someone picks up the torch when he can no longer do it, right? And I want you to know that it's going to take more than $10,000 to replace what this man has done. And so this committee should be working with Mr. Blackstein now to think about a contingency plan and what types of things are going to have to be in place when he decides that it's time to relax with his beautiful wife, Barbara. And like I said, who are you mentoring now? Can I ask? Or do you have anybody you're mentoring? Because I certainly think that we should be putting money in reserves for this property. And because unless we get another legacy of money left to us, it is going to be the city. And I wouldn't say that we're being strapped with it, because it is our own property. We're just lucky that we had ambassadors to look after it all these years. So thank you, and food for thought for our budget meeting to talk about putting money away now that we know that this envelope is shrinking. So thank you, Fred, and I'll call the question now. All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you very much.
So I will depart now and thank you. And I think the partnership is just such a fantastic way to leverage more grants, because to be able to say a 50-50 partnership, I think that's the key. And thanks, Jordan, and thanks to Parks and Rec and all their hard work.
Good night, Fred. Good night. Next, Santa Claus Parade of Lights. Jordan?
All right, thank you. So the recommendation for this report is for information purposes only. I'm sure everyone is well aware, when we start to open the portfolio of Santa Claus Parade, most people are laying on beaches or at their cottages and whatnot. They're not thinking about snow or Santa Claus Parade at that point in time. But we do start planning ahead of time, and we generally host the event the last Saturday of November. And this year fell on November 25th, and our theme for this year was Country Christmas. So despite the fact that we do host the event, I always like to coin this event as a community participation event. And it's simply because without everybody entering a float into the actual event, we wouldn't have the Santa Claus Parade itself. So, as this year showing, we had over 80 parade entries. We also want to thank the Pembroke Firefighters Association, Pembroke Professional Firefighters Association, for their successful hot dog reception, as well as the addition of the aerial and the bickle to the parade. Everyone does look forward to that as well. We had a few sponsors this year. We had CNL that came on board, Canadian Legion Branch 72. We had King Sports, Rondo Electric, and MyFM totaling $2,300 in sponsorships. And we also had some in-kind donations from Sunbelt, Metro, Your TV, and P&G Pumping. Thank you.
Questions or comments? Seeing none. Good report. It was a great parade. I was hosting it on Your TV with Deputy Mayor again, and he found it cold, but I said, toughen up. I said, toughen up. Okay. Thank you. Sorry, the mayor wants to speak?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to say that Councillor Keel and I had the benefit of attending the award ceremony post the parade, but they're all winners, and you can't. There's not enough trophies to give to all of them. But when you're going through the parade or taking part in the parade, watching the parade, just to see so many smiles and the children, the parents, grandparents, everyone getting involved, sense of community, and it's just overwhelming. So it was we have the pleasure of doing the award ceremony, but you can't seem to, at least my feeling is you can't acknowledge everyone that should be acknowledged, because it was just fabulous. And to have this many floats, because I hear other municipalities, we had this many. It's like, yeah, well, I think we beat you all.
Okay. Kinsman Pool lift replacement. Jordan.
All right, thank you. So the recommendation for this report is that the Parks and Recreation Committee approve and enter into an agreement between the City of Pembroke and the Minister of Employment and Social Development Canada for funding through the Enabling Accessibility Fund Small Projects component in the amount of $26,682. So back in October of 2022, Parks and Recreation Department had seen an opportunity and applied for some funding through this fund. This was to replace the old lift at the Kinsman Pool. So the lift has served as an important asset to access the Kinsman Pool for people who have mobility issues. A new chairlift, of course, would benefit those not only with the mobility issues, but also with disabilities. A newer lift would also improve transfers for wheelchairs. And in addition, the lift is used daily by our seniors population. So it's not just those with disabilities or mobility issues, those that are aging, that have a difficult time getting into the pool, also use that. So at times we are using it on a daily basis. The lift would feature both a foot and headrest, and would support weight capacities upwards of to 400 pounds. So our current lift supports up to 300 pounds. So interestingly enough, it appears that the industry standards are actually moving away from manual lifts and is going more to electric. And I think this would actually be beneficial because it would reduce the risk to staff. A bylaw will be coming forward with this agreement before council this evening. When we take a look at some of the financial implications, the funding would cover approximately 75% of the overall costs for the lift, and the city would be responsible for the additional costs. We're anticipating the additional costs that the city would pay for would be a little over $6,000. So originally, the Parks and Recreation Department had originally planned to budget the full replacement for this lift in a capital project in the 2024 budget deliberations before receiving notification that we were successful in the grant application. So one thing that I did want to note is, of course, despite the decision-making efforts of council and the current status of the Kinsman Pool, I did just want to make aware that the new lift could be repurposed to another facility if need be. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor.
Well, this is great news that you got the grant, and hats off to staff for pursuing that. And it's also great that it's going to electric, and it's updating for people who use it. And it can be repurposed if we do get a new aquatic complex. So I'd like to make a motion to accept the recommendation.
Motion on the floor to accept the recommendation. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Purcell. Further comments? Councillor Keel.
So in terms of the move to an electric lift, are we still keeping the manual lift there? Or what happens when and if, well, probably more when this lift isn't working, or we have a power outage or something, what is the backup plan?
Yeah, through the chair, so that's a really good question. So it's battery operated. Okay. So it's not hardwired into anything.
Okay. And when you say that it could be repurposed at another facility, are you thinking like the pool, if we have a new pool or something?
Yep, that's correct. So in the event that council decided that we were building a new pool, we could simply transfer that lift to the new one.
No further comments? I'll call the question. All in favor? Approved. And approved by Councillor Plummer, too. Okay, next. Kinsman Pool Active Monitoring.
All right, thank you. So the recommendation for this report is for information purposes only. So as a result of the December 11th special meeting of council, council tabled a decision to either close the pool or take immediate actions to repair the structure. Council had directed staff to find proactive measures and active monitoring of the Kinsman Pool structure until a decision will be made in January through the budget deliberations. So staff met with HP Engineering, who had previously provided reports in 2016, 2018, as well as 2021. And given the fact that HP Engineering has been on this for quite some time and is well versed on the subject and the building, inspections will be carried out by HP Engineering personnel. So it was recommended that we would carry these inspections out weekly and that the inspections would include reports to staff. The cost for the active monitoring of the Kinsman Pool structure will come from the pool's 2023 and 2024 operating budgets, and it will be $800 per visit. One thing that we did want to include in here, as I know there was some discussion at the special meeting, was that the city currently spends $1.8 million on the operation of the pool as well as both arenas. So the amount is for the user fees, this amount is before the user fees as well as any cost recoveries. So the treasurer notes that the notation on page 18 of the major recreation building, so this was a presentation that came forward in September, was incorrectly labeled. So the actual cost to operate the pool is as follows. The actual Kinsman Pool maintenance is a little over $182,000. The Kinsman programs is a little over $440,000. So total cost to operate our Kinsman Pool from the 2023 budget is $623,350. And when we minus our user fees of a little over $177,000, as well as our TLV contribution of $133,000, we have a net cost to operate of $312,095. Thank you.
Thank you for that information, Jordan. Comments? Councillor Purcell.
Thanks, Jordan. I appreciate that. Thanks for the clarification. I kind of thought that number was kind of not correct, but that's what was in the presentation that was provided in September. So, that being said, I think it's really, really important in terms of the safety of our staff and of the people utilizing the pool that those inspections go forward. I did request a copy of the assessment report that was provided by HPR Engineering, and it says it's recommended that the city consider closing the facility to the public until proper rehabilitation work is completed. So I do think that the city is still at a risk of liability, and I do think that building, based on the HP Engineering assessment that was performed November the 8th of 2023, stipulates that it's in serious and dire straits in terms of concerns regarding failure of the building. So what other mitigation is going to be put in place in terms of wind speed, snow loads, those kinds of things? Because I mean, a once weekly inspection, we have a night like last night where we have some snow load, heats up during the day, tends to get heavy. How is that being addressed?
Yeah, so through the chair, so it will be monitored on a weekly basis. So through that report, that's going to come as a recommendation, or unless we actually, receive like a foot of snow or something to that nature, we'll be removing it. We'll have to remove that. That's above and beyond what is in the costing here. That would be, of course, through our own other budgets, but we'd have to do that ourselves. So we'd have to contact different contractors and have it removed. Part of the flat part of the roof we do ourselves. So as part of the passive monitoring in the past, we would remove that ourselves. So we'd continue to do that, and then it would just be more or less the oval part that we'd monitor or continue monitoring.
Follow-up?
I'd just like to see some parameters in terms of wind speeds. Is there going to be some additional monitoring? Is it, staff going to have a checklist that they're going to go and assess the roof after heavy snowfall or a melt? I have serious concerns that the structure could fail at any time, and that's based on the once per week. Meanwhile, there's a whole bunch of different weather concerns that happen during that week. What's being put in place to protect the safety of our staff that are working out of that pool, and also the individuals that are using that pool?
Jordan, do you want to respond?
Yeah, sure, through the chair. That's a really good question. So we are going to be working internally on some of those things that you had mentioned as well. So we will be looking at on developing an inspection sheet that we're going to be looking at on a daily basis. I can't say that it's necessarily going to address the actual roof itself. We're just simply not structural engineers, but we are taking some of those parameters in place. So it's looking for deflection, those kind of things, and that way then whenever the structural engineer comes in, he'll be able to monitor his report as well. So we will be working together, but I can't say that our staff is actually going to be inspecting the roof, because they just simply aren't structural engineers and they don't know what they're looking for.
Further questions, comments? Councillor Keel.
Well, Councillor Purcell stole my first question there, because I was going to ask, our staff at least taking a gander at things, not with a professional engineer eye, but, just like I would look at my car, having no idea how to fix it, but, looking for when something's done wrong. So I appreciate, Jordan, you and the staff answering that question from Councillor Purcell. With respect to the $800 a week, is that, when you say that that's within the operating budget, that's presuming that we're making some sort of decision in January, correct? Like, we're not projecting this out to be months of weekly inspections. This is a stopgap, $800 per week, if I'm correct. I see you nodding. I don't know that you need to respond to that. That was my question on that one.
Okay, thank you. So yes, for the people that didn't see Jordan nod, yeah, so that is until budgets, till the decision. Okay, sorry, Jordan, go ahead.
Yeah, just through the chair, I just did want to comment. Yes, you're absolutely right. This is a stopgap. I know in discussions with the structural engineer, he's willing to do this, to work with us, but at the same time, too, this isn't long term. This is definitely short term.
Thank you. If there's no more comments, short comment. I am really glad to see it isn't just staff monitoring. I was left feeling very uncomfortable after that last meeting. Our staff should not be put in that position. Like you said, they're not structural engineers. This is our decision to make. It scared me, the fact that the engineer that was here that night said it could be 3 seconds from now, or it could be 3 months from now. And he couldn't even guarantee us. So it's scary for me. So I can't wait to get to budget so we can debate this. Yeah. So thank you. So do you need a motion to approve? I believe, further comment from Councillor Purcell.
It's just what involvement does the chief building official have in terms of assessing the building? I know he goes out and assesses other properties that's owned by the municipality. Could we get a report from the chief building official in regards to the status of the building, and also the controls that are put in place until such time that we make a decision in regards to the closure of the pool or facilitating of the repairs to the pool?
So through the chair, we can certainly look into that for you, absolutely.
Ideally, that's the individual that should be making that decision whether the building is not safe. It's not up to council. It's up to the engineer, which the engineer states in the report that it's recommended that the city consider closing the facility to the public. It's written here in writing, and I think that we need to have the chief building official weigh in and really kind of make that determination if it's safe to operate, and also to be part of the controls that are put in place. So that's what I'm getting at. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. I believe staff heard that, and if we could, Mr. Unlaw, would you like to comment?
Yeah, I was just going to make the statement that the chief building official acts with respect to enforcement of the codes and not necessarily assessing if a structure is safe or not. He would then refer to the engineer, and that's who we have on here. So I'm not sure what additional value that he will bring to the table, but certainly we will ask the question. We have been asked that question before, so we can talk to them. But he certainly would refer to the engineer who we are working in consultation with.
Have your concerns been met? Thank you. Okay, we will call the question, or was there a motion on the floor already? No. So could I have a motion, please? It was information only, okay. Thank you. Next up, MPAC Data Sharing and Services Agreement. Mr. Unraw will be bringing this forward. And thank you, Jordan. And you have a good evening. And Merry Christmas. Thank you.
Yes, Madam Chair, this is an information item only, as a bylaw will be brought forward later on in this meeting. The impact data sharing agreement is attached, and there is also an information sheet. Really, the essence of this is that MPAC is bringing together several different documents into one. They had a working group with several different municipalities looking at how they could streamline their administrative process, and this is the fruits of their labor, let's say, and so the recommendation is that we approve this and sign off. Majority, if not all, municipalities within Ontario are either in the process of signing or have signed this agreement, so it's not something that's unique to the city of Pembroke.
Comments, questions? Seeing none, thank you. And finally, on tonight's agenda, Mr. Unraw will report on the collective agreement renewal for QP Local 24.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The report was circulated. It wasn't circulated in the original package, but it is now circulated to all members. So the recommendation is that the Parks and Recreation Committee recommends that Council approve the attached 4-year collective agreement, which is being recommended by the employer's bargaining representation. The staff be directed to prepare a bylaw for Council's consideration at a future meeting. So we'd bring this forward on the January 2nd meeting. So the collective agreement, current one, expires in December 31st, 2023, and this new agreement would be a 4-year agreement starting in January 1st of 2024 and expiring in December 31st, 2027. There is a cost of living allowance that is part of the package, which is at 3.25% for 4 years. And then some of the other items that were recommended for changing is changing the language to general neutral, the uniforms updated to a point system. Boot allowance has been increased. Also increase some of the language to be in line with the Employment Standards Act. The addition of 2 wellness days, life insurance, increased to 2 times salary. Vacation entitlement increased to be in line with the county and surrounding municipalities, and shift premiums and standby increases that will take place in 2026, 2027. So under financial implications, that this collective agreement is estimated to increase the 2024 budget for QP staff by $277,098, representing a 1.2% levy increase.
Thank you, Mr. Unruh. Questions, comments? Deputy Mayor?
I motion that we recommend council approve the four-year collective agreement, which is being recommended by the employees' bargaining representatives, and that staff be directed to prepare a bylaw for council's consideration at a future meeting.
Motion on the floor, Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Keel. Further comments? Seeing none, I will call the question. All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. That is the final item. Can I have a motion to adjourn? Councillor Keel, Deputy Mayor, all in favor? Adjourn. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting of the Operations Committee for December 19th to order. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion for the approval of this agenda. I have the Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Purcell. Those in favor? That is carried. For minutes, we have October 17th, 2023, Operations Committee minutes. I have Councillor Giacono, seconded by Councillor Keel. Those in favor? Okay, those are approved. Any business arising from the minutes? Seeing none. Under new business, the first order of business is 2022 DWQMS. Mr. Lewis, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So it's that time of year again. The Operations Department is presenting the DWQMS Management Review Report for 2022 and ask that the committee accept the report and that the Mayor and the Chair of Operations sign and approve as indicated. Under the Ontario Drinking Water Quality Management Standard, DWQMS, the operational plan, the annual management review results must be conveyed to top management and the owner, being council. This report fulfills that requirement. The DWQMS is a tool that supports and ensures that council, as the owner of the drinking water systems, is meeting its duties and responsibilities under the Safe Drinking Water Act and Standard of Care. The current review considers the entire 2022 calendar year and touches on some activities continuing in 2023. Highlights of the review findings are as follows. During the 2022, the city's drinking water system scored 100% compliance rating across the board after a detailed Ministry of Environment inspection. The water quality testing program meets or is better than the regulations. Maintenance procedures are appropriate and continually improved and updated. Shortcomings are being addressed through the preventative and corrective action request process. The operator certification program is working, and staff are following procedures and showing a commitment to continual improvement. The findings reinforce the fact that the City of Pembroke produces and supplies high-quality, safe drinking water. The 2023 external surveillance audit was completed on November 30th, 2023, with only one minor conformance finding, and that was relating to documenting continual improvement. There are no financial impacts associated with this report. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Lewis, any questions, comments, or motions? Councillor Keel?
I'll start with the, I guess, the slightly more negative one. What was the one minor non-conformance finding?
Through the chair, documenting continual improvement. So it's a matter of, throughout the entire year, we have to document everything related to the DWQMS, and one of the items in the DWQMS is to continually monitor and improve. And it was just a matter of documenting continual improvement initiatives.
Mr. Lewis, I just want to say to you that last year at this time, I didn't have the opportunity to meet with your staff at the water treatment plant, but thanks to you and Mr. Unruh, I was able to have a tour earlier this year. And then I met your staff again when bringing them some treats earlier in the spring. Your staff are just absolutely phenomenal. Their quality to attention, their understanding of the importance of what they do, their knowledge far supersedes anything I knew about water. You know, I just want to thank you for your leadership, but I also hope you'll pass along to the staff how absolutely amazing that water treatment system that we have is, and the staff that run it. It's something that the people don't see. It's probably something that many people take for granted when they turn their taps on. But even you know, even when we had the unfortunate helicopter incident, I know you were communicating with us. Frankly, I think you had the email out before I even woke up the next morning, communicating with us, and that I hope the people will know how important we treat our water safety and whatnot, and the number of eyes that are on it. So thank you, Mr. Lewis, for that.
Councillor Purcell?
Just a comment, you know, 2,700,000 cubic meters of water. That's amazing for 2022. That was treated with really no significant water quality issues. That's pretty impressive. Do we know why there was a reduction from 2022 to 2021 in terms of consumption? Just curious.
Through the chair, not off the top of my head,
Yeah.
no. But there could be seasonal variations as well. You know, treated water is being used to water gardens and
Right.
lawns and so forth. And if we have a hot season, it could be larger use. Treated water is being used in our splash pads, and there could be you know, seasonal differentials in the amount of water that's being used by the users.
Thank you. I just wanted to echo the comments that was made by Councillor Keel. I too had the pleasure of having that tour, which is really eye-opening in terms of, you know, the efforts that go into ensuring that our drinking water is safe, and also having the ability to help out our local communities in the event that that unfortunate helicopter incident. So kudos to you and your team, and continue the great work. And I have every confidence that you know, we have safe drinking water, and you know, that you know, it's continually being monitored, and really kind of looking at best in class in terms of the status in terms of our quality of water system. So thank you very much.
Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Your Worship. It's great to, every year, Ms. Lewis, you come with this report. And I think a number of years ago, you used the word, or you used it quite a bit, actually, highly regulated system. And I've lived in some countries in the world where you can't drink the water, so sometimes we take it for granted. So I'd like to make a motion that we accept the DWQMS Management Review Report for 2022, and that the Mayor and Chair of Operations sign and approve as indicated.
Seconded by Councillor Frenier. Councillor Jacquinot?
Thank you, Your Worship. A number of years ago, when Walkerton occurred, and 2,300 people, you know, ended up being very sick. A number died. We all know that most diseases are waterborne through, you know, cryptosporidia or giardia, which are very difficult microorganisms that are difficult to detect and to destroy through chlorine, etc. And cryptosporidia, as a microorganism, has learned to encapsulate itself by developing a crust around itself, harder to detect and harder to treat. So the fact that we've received 100% compliance through the organization that looks after water and takes it very seriously, really is kudos to the staff. And I think a lot of people that live, in the outlying areas and are on wells and septic systems don't understand that their water should be tested more than once a year. And I have farmer friends, and I say, how often do you test your water? Well, we test it once a year. I said, if you're downhill from a cow pasture and you're drinking the water out of your well, Cryptosporidia and Giardia can form very quickly. And anyway, we're very fortunate to have clean drinking water, and thank you for providing that service to our residents. Thank you.
Okay, so I'll call the question of the motions on the floor. Those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Mr. Lewis, second matter, sole sourcing, construction manager at risk.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Operations Department is seeking direction regarding sole sourcing a modified alternative delivery approach for procuring the filters, launders, and under-tile drains replacement project at the water purification plant. So my theme today is water purification, so I'll stay with that one. As previously discussed, a number of meetings ago, the city has undertaken an infrastructure needs study, and we're working on a 20-year plan for the water purification plant. And as part of that, a capacity and performance review was performed. The filtration process is limiting capacity and represents a performance limitation and operations challenge. And mirroring the comments of committee and council members, the staff at the plant are extremely dedicated, very, very proud of the work they do, and they want to provide the best drinking water they possibly can. They're working with some limitations right now as the plant is operating, and with this this project and this program, we help to eliminate some of those performance issues. It was recommended by the consultant to implement repairs on the filter boxes and the filtration system in the near-term capital plans. Additionally, we've experienced additional operational challenges with the filtration system, and an upgrade to the filtration system has been prioritized and accelerated to reduce the risk of a filter failure, and we have discussed this a number of times. At the July 2023 Combined Committee meeting, the design of the water purification plant filters, launders, and under-tile drains project was awarded to Associated Engineering Limited. At the Finance and Admin Committee meeting of November 7th, staff was directed to proceed with using a construction manager at risk methodology for this project. So we started working towards that construction manager at risk procurement method, and we started working on the preliminary design with the consultant. And during that preliminary design, it was confirmed that a low-profile stainless steel under drain system was recommended, and this is a highly specialized and custom-made system. So our consultant reached out to the two predominant suppliers of that type of system, one being Anthratech Western Inc., AWI, and the other one being Roberts Filter Groups. We'll just call them Roberts for the report. Both AWI and Roberts were consulted through the preliminary design development phase. Very, very specialized system, very specialized under-tile drain system. Filtering water for purification is a very customized and a specialized field to begin with. So during the design stages, to make sure we're getting on top of things, the consultant is already reaching out to these two suppliers to make sure that the design is going to work with what is available on the market. So through this process, AWI has been significantly more responsive and supportive in comparison to Roberts. Budgetary proposal was requested from Roberts in July of 2023, and we have yet to receive that budgetary proposal document. So AWI has since approached the consultant and have confirmed that they have the capacity and the staff available to self-perform the complete scope of the project within the city's preferred fast-track schedule. So it kind of leads away from a CMAR approach to more of a sole source, but not without going through a procurement process, and I just want to make sure that that's clear. Some more information on the two suppliers. AWI is a Canadian supplier. They're offering for consideration a turnkey supplier-installed solution. Start to finish, the entire project by this specialized company. Roberts is a US-based company. They're likely not available for supply, for supplier install. They can supply up in here in Canada, but they're likely not available for a supplier install, as they don't normally install their American-made product in Canada. So we did some research. The supervisor of the water treatment plant was on the phone with me today, and we have done some research with the company as well as with the consultant. AWI has completed works in this area. Municipal treatment plants in Arnprior, Renfrew, Deep River, Perth, Smith Falls, Ottawa, as well as other locations. So they have done work in this area before. Under a turnkey solution, AWI would supply and install all filtration equipment, including performing the state of good repairs for the filter boxes. They would procure and install the temporary mobile filtration unit, as well as manage the complete scope of work and the construction works. This eliminates the need to engage a separate construction manager that would subsequently have to hire a general contractor, and it further fast-tracks the construction schedule and streamlines the processes. Some savings can be anticipated as risks are reduced by having one entity involved in the design, the manufacture, the installation, and the warranty of the project. At a minimum, 4 to 6 weeks, project duration could be saved. That's extremely important when we start talking about the temporary filtration system. There's very few of these things out there right now. We need to get our hands on one of these filtration units fairly quickly to ensure that we can complete the project. If we wait too long and a filtration system isn't available when we need to do the project, it's going to delay everything, which also could increase the cost. Granular media filtration is a specialized process, and each filter under drain system is unique. It's important that a qualified specialized contractor team perform the filtration upgrade works, particularly especially considering that we must continue production with only one filter in service. We have to take a filter down to be able to do the upgrades to the filter. We're only going to have one filter operating the entire facility at the time. It's very important to ensure we have somebody that's capable of handling that type of methodology and that type of process. So the sole source procurement does not necessarily meet the city's procurement policy. However, council does have the ability to differ from the procurement policy. Staff has reached out to a procurement lawyer to get an opinion on the sole source option and whether there are any issues related to council's procurement policy and or the free trade agreements. The opinion of the lawyer is that we can proceed by a sole source procurement for this instance. Sole sourcing is supported by the fact that the supplier is specialized in manufacturing and installation of this highly customized process. No local contractors would have this specialty. AE is recommending the city engage AWI directly for this project. And now I'll just touch very briefly on what I meant by we're not doing this without going through a procurement process. We would still do an RFP. AWI would still have to provide us with a proposal under a guaranteed maximum price contract. That proposal would still be reviewed by ourselves and the consultant, and we would still come back to council with a report and a recommendation after that evaluation. There is an anticipated cost savings of between $115,000 and $230,000 using this above recommended approach. And as previously noted, just so that we all remember, project costs for this particular project are anticipated in the magnitude of $3.1 million, and they're being included in the 2024 capital budget. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Questions, comments, motions to kick us off? We have the Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Very specialized operation required, highly regulated, so very important. So I'd make a motion that we engage AWI directly for this project, sole source.
Your seconder for that motion, Councillor Purcell. Any other questions and comments? Councillor Giacono.
Your Worship, pending the information we received from Mr. Lewis, I've always had a problem with sole sourcing, but particularly the way it's been explained to us, I do favor using a Canadian company over an American counterpart, and I think they're just as capable as providing the service. It's unfortunate that, there's only one firm, Canadian firm, that has taken the time to really look at this, but I guess we have no option but to use them based on the urgency of the particular project. So from that particular perspective, I will be supporting the nomination for the approval. But sole sourcing bothers me. I just wish we had, a dozen engineering firms within our province or within the country that would be taking on projects of this nature. It may be perhaps the size of the project itself. Large engineering firms like to deal with large, financial projects where they can make a lot of money. So anyways, we're looking forward to seeing them proceed. Thank you.
Councillor Keel?
I echo Councillor Jacquinot's comments. Certainly starting with the title, I wasn't the most pleased, and then you get into it. I do believe, and that's why I want to explain myself on this one, I do believe staff has already done quite a lot of the groundwork to support a sole source idea. The only thing that I have a question about is your report says there's predominantly only two. Are there others out there?
There may be other companies out there that will manufacture the under tile drains, that portion of the project. There are not other companies out there that can provide a turnkey solution that includes design, supply, and install of the filter media, the under tile drain system, be able to do the repairs to the filter boxes, provide us with a fully encompassed project.
And with that, you have my support.
Okay, call the question. Those in favor of the motion on the floor, and it is carried. Thank you, Mr. Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members of Council, have a Merry Christmas.
Christmas to you as well. Next matter is 2023 Annual Accessibility Status Report. Madam Clerk, Madam Clerk.
So as per the Accessibility for Ontarians with Disability Act, the city must review its progress implementing a strategy towards meeting our accessibility plan and then document the results in an annual status report, and which needs to be posted on the city's website. So this evening, I'm bringing forward our annual status report as the city continues to strive to be proactive in identifying, removing, and preventing barriers to ensure that everyone can participate fully in a diverse community. A great deal of progress has been made and many barriers have already been eliminated, but it also has to be recognized that it's not always possible to change the architecture of some of our buildings, and therefore some barriers identified will always exist or may always exist. So in 2023, we had quite a few instances where we looked at barriers within the city and remediated them, and I'm just going to highlight a few of them. So we redeveloped the front entrance walkway at the ramp at Kinsman Pool to ensure it was safe. We purchased 5 new accessible picnic tables that were added to the Pembroke Waterfront Park. Our website, which was launched in April of 2022, meets the WCAG 2.0 level AA compliance, but staff has to continually monitor the information that is posted on our website to ensure we are being compliant, and we do have accessibility checking software. So our percentages will range anywhere from 80 to 100%. Primarily, we're looking at the high 80s, and what can happen is we can be 100% compliant one day, and it just takes one document be posted on our website that is not accessible to drop our percentage. As well, on our city's website, it was noted that accessibility was not one of the drop-down menu items for report a concern, so that was added to our website. We have continued to construct new accessible sidewalks in various parts around the city. We've continued to repair sidewalks. New pedestrian signals with auditory and tactile components and a sensor button were added to help upgrade some of our old signals. The Pembroke Public Library replaced their lift. They've lowered some of the counter heights in the library to accommodate individuals, and they also added some brightly colored yellow usually, to the edge of the steps to assist those with low vision. We continue to advertise all on our employment opportunities that we will accommodate individuals, and that's available throughout the recruitment, assessment, and selection process. Education for staff on the need for accessible documents continues. We offer culture awareness and services for all staff, and any service disruptions are posted on the website. As far as financial implications, expenditures needed to remediate the barriers and meet the requirements of the Accessibility for Ontarians with Disability Act are met through the various department budgets. We don't necessarily have a budget line specifically for accessibility. So the recommendation this evening is that the Operations Committee approve the City of Pembroke Annual Accessibility Status Report.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Questions, comments, motions? I have Councillor Keel and then Councillor Purcell.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. So the one thing that I noticed is we seem to be very good with our physical buildings in terms of finding problems and addressing them. Where I think we are less good, I don't want to be negative, we're less good at addressing our outdoor parks. A lot of those have blank spaces in terms of the year to be addressed. So I'm wondering, and I don't know that I've addressed it. This might have came up last year, but I might have been so new, I might have not known what I was talking about. I'm wondering, do we have a plan to look better at the parks, or is that something that perhaps we could ask our accessibility committee to look at and maybe make some budget recommendations in that regard? If we could, because we're doing, I mean, the library in particular, and I know the Deputy Mayor and Councillor Purcell on the library committee, they're meeting almost every single point that needs addressing very quickly when it comes up. But our outdoor parks just seem to be the ones that just haven't quite caught up yet, if I can try and put this in the most positive way.
So you through the chair. So the Accessibility Advisory Committee conducts tours of the city, and I don't have the year in front of me when we did the tours of the various parks. And yes, we noted a lot of issues with our parks. I know that through the Recreation Master Plan, that accessibility will be addressed and looked at as well. I've spoken with the Director of Parks and Recreation, and he's well aware of the need, and that is something that he is going to look forward or look to in the future. As far as do we have a plan to look at the parks in more detail, we don't at this time, but if that's something that you would like the committee to look at, we can definitely move forward with that.
Yeah, I mean, one of the reasons I said I wasn't trying to make it a negative is because I don't think it's a negative. We have beautiful parks, and a lot of things in our parks are accessible. Really, it's almost, this report almost highlights the fact that they're just not ticked off as well as we've been ticking off other things. So I certainly don't, I don't intend on asking Councillor Lafreniere or Jordan or anybody to do anything special. I'm sure it is being addressed. I guess I just wanted a little bit of explanation as to why maybe we just aren't as good at ticking those boxes off as the other ones. But overall, I think the city is doing an absolutely fantastic job, and it might be that we're a nice, we're a nice sized small city, and heaven forbid if all of us took tours of the bigger cities and all the many places that they would have to address. I think we're doing quite well for our size in that. So it certainly wasn't meant to be a negative. I just wanted to make sure that we were taking a look at it.
Okay, Councillor Purcell.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Heidi, for your report. As the Chair of the Accessibility Advisory Committee, I know that I've been in discussions, and this is to answer Councillor Keel's question in regards to Parks and Rec in terms of accessibility equipment. And, you know, the problem is getting to and from the equipment a lot of the time. So I know that we've had some discussions, and I guess that will be also included in the Recreation Master Plan, but it's also looking at an accessible park. Instead of having one piece of equipment at different locations, is to look at an accessible park. So that way there we can have a little bit harder surfaces for people to actually go from piece to piece to piece instead of traveling around the city for one piece of equipment. So that has already taken place. And I'd also just like to take this time to thank Ms. Martin for her support of the Accessible Advisory Committee. I know that she's been diligent in ensuring, you know, our meetings run smoothly and that the activities are captured in the plan. And our accessible status plan. So thank you, Ms. Martin, for all your support. I did have the pleasure to go with some of the members of the Accessible Committee this past week and test some crossings to ensure that they were accessible. Some of the buttons are stuck on some of the equipment, and I know that we've been addressing those types of issues as we go along. And as far as the library, I think, you know, as the property manager of the library, there's a lot of great activities that are happening there, and Deputy Mayor Abdallah also sits on that library board and very good at identifying issues and making sure that those get resolved in a timely manner. So, you know, we can set that bar high for other organizations to do the same. And also to look at maybe also promoting the CIP grants that are available. Not only do they improve facades, but they also improve the accessibility for the various different businesses that are, you know, across our city. So please take advantage of those great funding opportunities as well, where they can you know, apply up to 50% in terms of the cost. So that's awesome. Yeah, that's it for now. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor?
I'd like to thank the Volunteer Advisory Committee and Councillor Purcell and Ms. Martin for your dedicated work, and it's so important to have accessibility in our community. It takes time and money, but we'll get there eventually. I like the idea of the one park. That's an excellent idea. So you're pursuing that under the Parks and Rec Department? Councillor Lafreniere, through the chair. Yeah.
Councillor Purcell, I just didn't.
Oh,
yes.
Sorry, I thought I'm the vice chair, so I thought you were talking to the chair.
Yeah.
Which one?
So you're pursuing that?
He's asking me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Through the chair?
Trying to figure which one.
Yeah.
I'm trying to be proper. Actually, Jordan and I did have that conversation at one point, and he said that actually some of the structures at the parks are accessible. It's just that they're in sand, so they're not accessible. So exactly. So that is being looked at through the master plan. And I thank Councillor Purcell, because he is the vice chair, and he's aware of that too. What I was wondering, and if I could through the chair to Ms. Martin, when you are... Can I finish my train of thought and then?
Okay,
So,
go ahead.
yeah, Councillor Lafreniere
Okay,
has the
so-
floor, let her finish.
When you're meeting with the accessibility and you come to these points around recreation and things that need to be done, do you meet in consultation with Mr. DeRoche from Recreation to see if he can incorporate things annually into his own budget?
So through you, the chair. We have not had a tour since Mr. DeRoche has taken over the director position, but in the past, yes, we always had staff with us. That would help explain if a question was asked by one of the committee members, but also to take notes. And the accessibility plan, which will be discussed next, lists all the barriers, and all staff can have copies of that. The managers receive copies, and it is on our website.
Okay. Thank you. I was actually on the original Accessibility Advisory Committee for the city many, many moons ago, and it was a huge undertaking when we began, and sometimes it looks like a large hurdle, but there are ways to address it in an affordable manner, and we did find that out, and I'm sure Ms. Martin can attest to that. So maybe there is a way that, you know, even if we incorporate a little bit annually into each budget, we can be addressing them bit by bit. So thank you.
Thank you. And so Deputy Mayor, final comments, and then if we could
Yeah,
have a
so
motion.
motion to approve the City of Pembroke Annual Accessibility Status Report.
Seconded by Councillor Purcell. Those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Next item, City of Pembroke Accessibility Policy and Plan. Again, Madam Clerk.
So the recommendation here is that the Operations Committee recommend that Council approve the City of Pembroke Accessibility Policy and Plan, and that the Operations Committee recommends that Council approve the 2023 Accessibility Compliance Report. So the City of Pembroke Accessibility Policy and Plan, this is the document I just referred to. It's required by the Accessibility for Ontarians with Disability Act. The City of Pembroke has to have a document listing its accessibility policies and make them publicly available, and on request provide them in an accessible manner. The city is also required to establish, implement, and maintain and post a multi-year accessibility plan. Some municipalities will separate the policy and the plan, and others will combine it, and the City of Pembroke in the past has combined it. So attached to the report is a copy of the city's accessibility policy and plan. It's fully accessible, and once approved, can be posted on and will be posted on the city's website. Staff has made some changes to the document, and it was brought forward to the Accessibility Advisory Committee at their December 7th meeting, and they approved the policy and plan, which is presented to you this evening. And the 2023 Accessibility Compliance Report, the AODA indicates that municipalities have to file a compliance report. The last compliance report that the city submitted to the ministry was December 2021, and a compliance report is due no later than December 31st, 2023. Again, the Accessibility Advisory Committee at their meeting reviewed the compliance report and did approve it, and it's before committee this evening to approve as well. As far as financial implications, improvements made in 2023 across the city, including those made at the Pembroke Public Library, amounted to a little over $700,000. And since 2006, the city has spent approximately close to $7 million in accessibility improvements. So that is a number that is quite outstanding, and we hope that that will continue as we try to fix some of our barriers that have been noted.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Questions, comments, motions? Councillor Purcell.
I recommend that we approve the City of Pembroke Accessibility Policy and Plan, and that the Operations Committee recommend to Council to approve the 2023 Accessible Compliance Report.
Thank you. So the motion on the floor, seconded by the Deputy Mayor. Any questions? Seeing none, call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. And a motion to adjourn the operations, moved by the Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Keel. Those in favor? And we are adjourned. Thank you. Carried. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this council meeting to order for December 19th, 2023. Earlier this evening, we had a special meeting of council, and we had an opening prayer reflection for this evening. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof? Councillor Keel?
So it's not a conflict of interest pursuant to the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act, but I will be declaring a more general conflict, of course, which our procedural bylaw also discusses with respect to motion 6A.
Thank you, noted. And then in respect to myself, when we get to 6A, disclosing a perceived pecuniary interest, as Robert Shepherd is one of the number of solicitors that the City of Pembroke employs. Okay, then we're moving into minutes. I'm looking for a motion to approve the minutes of council. Regular meeting of council was December 5th, 2023. I have Councillor Lafreniere, seconded by Councillor Giacono. Those in favor? And that is carried. Next is the special meeting of council, December 11th, 2023. Looking for a motion for their approval. I have Councillor Keel, seconded by Councillor Lafreniere. Those in favor? That is carried. Moving on to adoption of minutes from committees. First is Parks and Recreation Committee, November 21st, 2023. Moved by Councillor Purcell, seconded by Councillor Keel. Those in favor? Thank you. Carried. Those are adopted. Next is Operations Committee of October 17th, 2023. I have Councillor Keel moving it, seconded by Councillor Lafreniere. Those in favor? That is carried. Those minutes are adopted. Next is receiving minutes from local boards. The first up this evening is the Accessibility Advisory Committee of July 31st, 2023. Moved by Councillor Purcell, seconded by the Deputy Mayor. Those in favor? That is carried. Those minutes are received. Next is Pembroke Public Library Board, September 21st, 2023, as well as October 26th, 2023. I'd entertain a motion to receive those minutes. I have the Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Purcell. Those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. That brings us to bylaws. The first bylaw this evening is 2023-88. I believe, Councillor Giacono, you have that bylaw.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Purcell that bylaw 2023-88 being a bylaw to establish the rules and regulations for the licensing and operation of taxi cabs within the City of Pembroke be adopted and passed, and further that the said bylaw be signed by the Mayor and the Clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation, awaiting your signature, Your Worship.
Okay, thank you. Moved by Councillor Giacono, seconded by Councillor Purcell, that bylaw 2023-88, a bylaw to establish rules and regulations for licensing and operation of taxi cabs within the City of Pembroke be adopted and passed, and further that the said bylaw be signed by the Mayor and Clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Councillor Giacono, did you wish to speak to the bylaw?
I do, Your Worship. This was looked at the Planning and Development Committee earlier, and some of the highlights were that a letter was sent to the owners of the cab companies with comments to be provided by November 24th. No comments are being received, so staff organized a meeting with the taxi cab owners on November 27th. 3 cab companies were represented at this meeting. I'll just highlight, because this is fairly elaborate, definition number of taxi cabs. The proposed new definition for taxi cab would remain the same, with the only change being the addition of limousines. As well, there were some issues. The taxi cab bylaw limits the number of taxis to 24, and it was recommended that no limit be put in place and allow the market to dictate the number of vehicles for hire. As well, the city will require, as part of the licensing process, a vehicle license under the Highway Traffic Act, insurance on vehicles as well as an owner and driver, proof that vehicle is mechanically fit. There were some issues with the age of cabs. The cab companies were all in agreement. They would like to see the bylaw stay the same at 10 years for a cab as opposed to 8 years, because they felt that they needed that extra couple of years to offset their costs. The 3 cab companies were very concerned about the loss of taxi meters. They felt that the meters protected the customer and hold the taxi cab to a certain standard. Therefore, the fee for a vehicle license is $500, and the annual renewal fee is $200. A new taxi cab driver license is $75, and the annual renewal fee is $75. The fee for a limousine license is $500, and a license renewal fee is $200. The fee for a limousine driver is $75, and again, the annual renewal fee is $75. This was respectfully submitted by the Director of Planning, Building, and Law Enforcement, Bylaw Enforcement, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Giacono. Members of council that wish to speak to it, Councillor Lafreniere.
So I just want to clear up any confusion around 10E and F. I was speaking to someone who dispatches at one of the cab companies in the city, and they were under the impression that if someone got into a cab in the city of Pembroke, that they had to use the meter unless they were leaving the city, then they could pre-negotiate a rate. And I think it's because E and F, if you look at them in here, there's almost a redundancy, but the wording can be confusing. So in E, it says, a cab driver must engage the taxi meter, if any, or provide a pre-negotiated rate with the passenger at the commencement of the trip when the passenger enters the taxi cab. So it means anyone who enters this cab doesn't necessarily have to use the meter. If they want to try to pre-negotiate, they can. But in the next one, F, this is where it sounds confusing. If someone just reads F, it says, when a taxi cab driver picks up a passenger within the city of Pembroke for a trip destination outside the city of Pembroke, the taxi cab driver and the passenger may agree before the commencement of the trip to a pre-negotiated rate for the trip. So if someone was to just take that one, it sounds like you have to be leaving the city in order to pre-negotiate a rate. So I'm thinking if we just took F out, it would be much clearer. And that would mean that it doesn't matter where this passenger is being picked up and dropped off. Engage the taxi meter, if any, or provide a pre-negotiated rate with the passenger at the commencement of the trip when the passenger enters the taxi cab. Now, we want to clarify, maybe it has to be within the city that they're picked up, but I don't think it should matter if they're going outside the city. You see what I'm saying? If you keep reading those two, you'll understand they're kind of a redundancy, one over the other. So I would like those two reviewed and maybe combined to be a little clearer. So it should say, engage the taxi meter, if any, or provide a pre-negotiated rate with the passenger who is picked up in the city at the commencement of the trip. It doesn't matter if they're going outside the city or not. Because I guess part of our reasoning here was if someone's being picked up at the St. Joseph's Apartments for seniors, and they want to pre-negotiate a rate to go to the Pembroke Mall, that should be possible. But in here, in F, it sounds like it's only if they're going outside the city that they can pre-negotiate. And I would like that cleared up. And this came straight from a cab company that thought that was the way it was supposed to be.
Your Worship,
Councillor
based on Councillor Lafreniere's sage comments, perhaps this motion should be tabled and go back to staff with a clarification, because I don't think we can make that on behalf of staff, because they're dealing with the various companies. And I know there was a gentleman here that didn't have a chance to speak. I had kind of cut him off due to the rules of process, et cetera. But I believe he had spoken with Ms. Sorial the day after. So maybe this has come from those conversations. So I don't think it's a do or die here. We can table this and then bring it back. I don't think council should be deciding this tonight based on those comments. It should be tabled. I would motion to table.
There's a motion to table. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Deputy Mayor. So without further discussion, we'll call the question on the motion to table only. Those in favor of tabling?
I want a recorded vote because I think this is a bad idea.
Okay. Madam Clerk?
Deputy Mayor Abdallah,
Yes.
Councillor Giacono,
Yes.
Councillor Keel,
No.
Councillor Frenier,
Yes.
Councillor Plummer,
Yay.
Councillor Purcell,
Yes.
and Mayor Gerva. So the vote is 6-1, motion carries.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. Next matter up is 2023-89 Enabling Accessibility Fund Agreement, Kingsman Pool Lift. Councillor Frenier.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Troy Purcell, that bylaw 2023-89, a bylaw to authorize the entering into an Enabling Accessibility Fund, EAF, small projects component agreement between His Majesty the King and the Right of Canada, as represented by the Minister of Employment and Social Development and the Corporation of the City of Pembroke, be adopted and passed. And further, that the said bylaw be signed by the Mayor and Clerk and sealed with the seal of the Corporation.
Mr. Unruh, moved by Councillor Frenier, seconded by Councillor Purcell, the bylaw 2023-89, a bylaw to authorize the entering into of an enabling accessibility fund, small projects component agreement between His Majesty the King and Right of Canada, as represented by the Minister of Employment and Social Development and the Corporation of the City of Pembroke, be adopted and passed, and further that said bylaw be signed by the Mayor and Clerk and sealed with the seal of the Corporation. Councillor Frenier?
Yes, this was covered earlier in the recreation meeting. Thank you.
Call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Next up is Data Sharing and Service Agreement 2023-90. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Ed Giacono, that bylaw 2023-90, a bylaw to authorize the entering into a data sharing and services agreement between the Municipal Property Assessment Corporation, otherwise known as MPAC, and the Corporation of the City of Pembroke be adopted and passed, and further, that the said bylaw be signed by the Mayor and Clerk and sealed with the seal of the Corporation.
Thank you. Moved by the Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Giacono, that bylaw 2023-90, a bylaw to authorize the entering into of a data sharing and service agreement between the Municipal Property Assessment Corporation and the Corporation of the City of Pembroke be adopted and passed, and further that the said bylaw be signed by the Mayor and Clerk and sealed with the seal of the Corporation. Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Your Worship. This was brought up earlier at committee level, and it's just an updated data sharing and services agreement with MPAC.
Thank you. Call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Thank you.
Something important. It's an oversight. Can I make a comment?
About this particular item? No.
Something else that just...
So what is it about, though, so we can make a ruling on whether
So
or
it's
not?
in regards to the item that was tabled. The expiry of the taxi license thing is December 31st. So if we're tabling this, how will they renew their agreement as of January 1st? If I could direct that to staff.
Mr. Unruh, did you have some thoughts on that one?
This is new information to me, and I don't know.
So
Sorry.
the only other thing I can think of is that it's been tabled, and there would need to be a motion to lift it from the table to bring it back to discuss either,
Setting new information, like I just realized.
Or you could have a special meeting of
or
council.
we could have a special meeting of council between now and December 31st. So what is council, because if you want staff to review it, then I don't understand how you're going to do it this evening,
Well,
but.
that's why I'm talking about it right now. So if we could schedule a special meeting just to discuss this, once staff has had time to re-script that part of the agreement.
So, Mr. Unruh, between now and December 31st, in terms of, because I realize, in terms of staff who's working and so forth as we enter into the holiday season, so,
Yeah, I cannot guarantee anything, because I know the Director of Planning is the one that would address this, and she's on vacation between Christmas and New Year's, and I'm not sure when her vacation starts.
Councillor Keel, do you wish to?
If I could beg an indulgence, so yes, the reason we were trying to get this passed tonight was because the taxi bylaws, their licenses are done December 31st. We wouldn't be able to look at this until January. I can't debate during a tabling motion, but what I really wanted to say to this council is I agree that they're redundant, but I don't think that redundancy would cause any major hiccup. I would have suggested that we pass it tonight, and that redundancy could be fixed quite quickly in January. That's what I would have said if you could debate during tabling. I would implore that we maybe reverse our course, pass it, and then Colleen can do a quick amended fix in the new year.
Can I ask council members this, if someone was to make a motion to lift it from the table and if there was a seconder and if it was to pass, then we could do as Councillor Keel is suggesting. So I'm asking the question, is there a motion to lift this item from the table? I have moved by Deputy Mayor. Is there a seconder? I have seconded by Councillor Frenier. I'm going to call the question on lifting it from the table. Those in favor? And that is carried. Okay, so the item is back on the table. There we go. So we've already discussed the item that Councillor Frenier raised. Is there any further discussion before calling the question of the motion that I already read previously?
Your worship, as I brought the motion forward and I tabled it and it's been removed from the table, I perceive what should happen is that we should proceed and have our planner wordsmith the bylaw. That's not our role, is to remove subsections, add subsections, and then we would proceed. So in principle, we would be approving this particular bylaw. Is that would be in concurrence with yourself and members of council, your worship?
That's what's being suggested. If the bylaw was to pass, then staff could amend or bring back to council in January a revised bylaw, and we could amend it, revoke it, pass another one, whatever. Is that Councillor Purcell?
Do you just want to clarify in regards to what section, in terms of section 10?
10E and F.
E and F.
So having previously read the motion, I'm not going to read it again. So those in favor of the motion and against, so one against and then the remainder in favor, it carries. Well, and maybe there's a delay in terms of when I look at the monitor. Councillor Purcell, can you clarify, are you for or against? Sorry. We'll go with that he's in favor and that there's no one against. There we go. So that is carried. Okay. Next item is under motions, and at this time I'm going to ask the Deputy Mayor to take the chair.
Okay, let the minutes show that Councillor Keel and Mayor Gervais have left the table and they declared a conflict. Councillor Purcell?
Thank you, Chair. So, moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Jackno that we take from the table the following motion tabled at April 18, 2023 council meeting. Whereas the City of Pembroke has been retaining the legal services of Shepherd and Gervais Law Services for over 20 years. And whereas it's important for the City of Pembroke to ensure that it obtains the best value for its money in all procurement activities. And whereas obtaining competitive bids for professional legal services is best practice in municipal procurement. Therefore, I would like to recommend that we go out for market for competitive bid the procurement of professional legal services currently retained by Shepherd Gervais Law Services. Thank you.
Moved by Councillor Troy Purcell, seconded by Councillor Giacono, that we take from the table the following motion tabled at April 18th, 2023 council meeting. Whereas the City of Pembroke has been retaining the legal services of Shepherd and Gervais Law Services for over 20 years, and whereas it is important for the City of Pembroke to ensure that it obtains the best value for its money in all procurement activities, and whereas obtaining competitive bids for professional legal services is a best practice in municipal procurement, therefore I would like to recommend that we go to market for a competitive bid the procurement of professional legal services currently retained by Shepherd and Gervais Law Service. Councillor Purcell, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening. As council is fully aware, the contract for provision of professional legal services for the City of Pembroke is well over 21 years since its inception. We all know that it's best practice in municipal procurement to review contracts on a regular basis, ensuring current requirements, competitive costing, and setting clear delivery of service expectations with the contractor, including taking into consideration any market factors. I'm proposing that we, as council, approve the motion demonstrating our commitment to municipal government, accountability, and transparency through the support of this long overdue procurement activity. Again, I remind council that members acknowledge that the public has a right to open government, transparent decision-making. Members should at all times serve the interest of their constituents and the municipality in a diligent manner and shall approach decision-making with an open mind. And members shall not extend preferential treatment to any individual organization. Members shall not benefit from the use of information acquired or used that is not generally available to the public during the course of the official duties. This being said, there's a couple different reasons why I feel that it's necessary that we go out for procurement for municipal legal services. As you're well aware, we made changes to our procurement bylaw, which allowed a time frame in terms of 5 years. And it's prudent for several different reasons when we made that decision. And what I'm saying is because that contract has been held for approximately 21 years, it's prudent that we actually do go out for a competitive bid. The first reason is for cost efficiency. So regular reevaluation of legal services allows us to ensure that we are receiving the best value for services provided. By opening up the procurement process, municipalities can potentially negotiate better rates or find more cost-effective service providers. The second is in regards to quality assurance. Regular procurement process can help ensure that the municipality is receiving high-quality legal services. It allows for the evaluation and performance of current legal service providers and the opportunity to seek out new providers who may offer improved expertise or service quality. Competition and innovation. Regular procurement engages and encourages competition amongst legal service providers that can drive innovation and improvements in service delivery. It also provides an opportunity to consider new approaches to technologies that may have emerged since the last procurement cycle. Legal and regulatory changes. The legal landscape is constantly evolving, and the legal service providers need to stay abreast of changes in laws and regulations that may affect municipalities. Again, regular procurement processes provide an opportunity to ensure that the legal services being provided are in line with the latest legal and regulatory requirements. Number 5 is the transparency and accountability. Regular engaging in procurement processes for legal services can help demonstrate transparency and accountability in the selection of a service provider, which is important to maintaining public trust. And number 6, flexibility. 5 years is a reasonable time frame that allows the stability for a legal service provider while also providing the flexibility to adapt to changes in circumstances or needs that arise with the municipality. So that's the reason why I'm requesting a recorded vote in regard to going out for procurement of legal services. Thank you.
Councillor Frenier.
Back in April, I believe we discussed this at length, but I'm just trying to remember, at that time, we decided to agree to a 5-year procurement term, that we would stay with one for 5 years and then look. But I'm wondering, was there not a date? I do believe that the conversation came around that we would stay with our present solicitor till such time they would leave, and then we would start adopting that 5-year. I can't remember what exactly the final terms were, but if staff could bring forward some more information, because I thought we settled it and had thought that we would begin that 5 years at the end of Shepherd's service to the city, because I think we decided then that we were getting good value for our dollar, but I can't recall all the information that came to us at that point, and I'd like to review that before we discuss this further. I thought it was put to bed, in other words, in April.
Councillor
for 5
Giacono?
years.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't have any problem with reviewing, tenders for service. There's nothing wrong with that. As Councillor Purcell says, it's healthy for the environment. 20 years may seem like a long time, but if you're receiving valued information over the 20 years, I think that has something to do with it. If the individuals were, dealing with issues of non-compliance or improper advisement to the municipality, I certainly would say yes, that should be done right away. The other thing was, I think that perhaps at the time, and at various times, we said, well, should we go out and get somebody else? I think there was some discussion about that. But based on the individual's background with municipal law, council, I can't recall, it's a number of years ago, council decided, no, we're going to stay with the individual. If we have a problem, then we'll do that. But it's due diligence. I think that at, every 4 or 5 years, you should look at it. There's nothing wrong with that. And if council decides to retain the individual law firm again based on their past performance, then so be it. I mean, if you can get cheaper funding through a lawyer, not necessarily better advice. Cheaper is not always best, as we all understand that, having seen that in bids and contracts, etc. The lowest bid is not always the best bid. So we should be looking perhaps at undertaking that, but base it on the fact that we're into a year already in the council. There's some big things happening within the community, where we have legal representation right now with past history. I think this should be undertaken at the next term of council, like when the term ends. It should be, put in a bylaw that every 5 years or every 4 years, every term of council should be reviewed. That's my say, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Councillor Purcell? Oh, Councillor Plummer, then Councillor Purcell, sorry.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, back in April, all legal services, we were going to begin the 5-year term. And council as a whole decided that we would start the clock with Shepherd and Gervais. So it would be a next term that we would go out to tender for legal services, Councillor Giacono, as you were saying. So I'm of the opinion, we already discussed this. And as a whole, we decided that we would retain Shepherd and Gervais until the next term of council. So I'm going to stick with my decision back in April, and I don't disagree with Councillor Purcell at all. It is good to go out for tender at a prudent time and discuss, make sure we're getting good value for money. But we had the discussion in April, and we as a council agreed that we would retain services or start the clock for a 5-year term. So that brings us into the next term of council. So I will stick with my original decision. Thank you.
Councillor Purcell?
I also received clarification from the clerk this past week, in regards to what that motion stated. The motion before was to revise the professional services contract to limit them for 5 years, and that my motion to go out for competitive bid for legal services was tabled at that time. So that's the reason why I'm removing it from tabled. I did not make that agreement. It's not in the minutes. It's actually not in any of the documentation from this council. So I don't know why some councillors do not support going out to market for provisional legal services. If Shepherd and Gervais are successful in the RFP processes, then they could retain the contract for the next 5 years as per our revised procurement bylaw detailed under professional services in terms of the contract term limitations. But I mean, 21-year-old contract, and we don't even know if we're actually working with a law firm, a law office, a law. I don't even know. I'm confused in regards to who's actually providing our services. So that's one confusion that I have, and I know that other residents of the city of Pembroke are also confused. This will allow the opportunity for individuals or for the city to go out for RFP, look and see what's out there, do a competitive bid process, look and see what services are available, and again, if Shepherd and Gervais are successful in getting that being successful in terms of going for that RFP processes, then they'll retain it for 5 years from that point. But at no time did I agree, or is there documentation in this council that states that we did not, that we came to a solution at that time? I simply just removed my, my motion from the table. Because if I would have pursued it at that time, we would have had and would have went to procurement, but I didn't want to do it that way because I wanted the entire council to participate. Unfortunately, we don't have that today, but thank you.
Just for point of clarification, this motion is to lift it from the table, and then we have to vote on the actual motion, correct? So, any further discussion on lifting it from the table? Councillor Giacono.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Just for clarification, so through you to Councillor Purcell, are you suggesting that this takes place immediately, or does it take place at the end of the term?
This takes place within the next few months in regards to going out for a competitive bid.
Councillor Plummer, did you want to say something before we vote on lifting this from the table?
Yes, not to dispute Councillor Purcell, but it's under my recollection that we discussed that all legal or all professional services would be limited to 5 years, and therefore the time would that basically we had start the clock. So that's why I wouldn't be supporting going out to tender, because we've already discussed that all professional services would be started. Maybe the CAO could clarify that in recollection, but that's the way I was recalling that we discussed this, that Shepherd and Gervais was under that stipulation that, okay, the clock has started, we were going to procurement, they've going to finish their contract in 5 years. So thank you.
CEO, do you want to comment on that? We're still debating whether to lift it from the table, so I'll let you comment.
Yeah, so the motion on April 18th, 2023 was that moved by Councillor Keel, second by Councillor Giacono, that the Council of the City of Pembroke does support and instructs the CEO to forthwith prepare an amendment to the procurement bylaw and bring same before council, limiting all professional services contract awards, including legal services and accountants, to no more than 5 years, after which time the service shall be reviewed and subject to a new procurement process, and that the aforesaid amendment shall include a transition provision providing that any current and ongoing contracts without an end date falling within the next 5 years shall be deemed to start a 5-year period upon the passing of the new bylaw, and that motion 7B, resolution for a request for proposal for legal services for the City of Pembroke, as presented by Councillor Purcell, be tabled for the time being and returned at the meeting of council at which the above amendment to the procurement bylaw is brought forward. The procurement bylaw amendment was brought back on May 16th, 2023.
Okay, so we're voting to lift it from the table. I'll call the question. Those in favor of lifting it, recorded vote, to lift this motion from the table. Councillor Purcell? No, he's going to say, Deputy Clerk is going to call the names.
Councillor Giacono?
No.
Councillor Frenier?
No.
Councillor Plummer?
Nay.
Councillor Purcell?
Yes.
And Deputy Mayor Abdallah.
Yay.
The vote is 3-2, the motion carries. Or, sorry, fails, it's defeated.
Okay, the motion is defeated.
The next matter under motions is 2023-23, 2022 DWQMS report. Councillor Keel.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Purcell. Be it resolved that the Corporation of the City of Pembroke approves the City of Pembroke 2022 DWQMS Management Review Report.
Moved by Councillor Keel, seconded by Councillor Purcell. Be it resolved that the Corporation of the City of Pembroke approves the City of Pembroke 2022 DWQMS Management Review Report. Councillor Keel?
This was discussed earlier tonight, Your Worship. I have nothing further to add.
Call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Next motion and last motion for this evening is 2023-24 Accessibility Policy and Plan. Councillor Purcell.
Thank you, Chair. Be it resolved, moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Keel, be it resolved that the City of Pembroke approves the City of Pembroke Accessibility Policy and Plan and the 2023 Accessibility Compliance Report. Thank you.
By Councillor Purcell, seconded by Councillor Keel. Be it resolved that the Corporation of the City of Pembroke approves the City of Pembroke Accessibility Policy and Plan and the 2023 Accessibility Compliance Report. Councillor Purcell?
Chair. We discussed this earlier tonight. We went through the accessibility report and the plan. It's an annual, semi-annual requirement to submit this on behalf of all the accessibility requirements that we have to meet as a municipality. Thank you.
You call the question. Those in favor? And that is carried. Next up is Mayor's Report. Good evening, everyone. It's my pleasure to bring to you my Mayor's Report. As I stated at the last number of council meetings, with the onset of winter and the increased risk of flu and COVID, I'd ask everyone to be mindful of this and do their part in helping to reduce the risk. Currently, the indication from the health unit is that we are still at a high level in terms of local respiratory illness. Further, as colder temperatures are setting in, especially with the last snowstorm, please stay off the rivers. There's countless examples of mishaps that happen when individuals venture out onto the ice. One can only hope that we will get sufficient ice so we could have polar bear dips and other activities, but for now, stay off the ice. With 2023 almost behind us, I wish to bring to Council's attention that we will have reports from Council members regarding the 2023 year at our second meeting of Council in January. This is very important to not only educate other members of Council as to what you're doing in your particular profile, but to educate the public as a whole as to the various work being undertaken on their behalf that is going on that they do not see at committee meetings and Council meetings. Regarding invitations and appearances, on December 9th, I had the pleasure to attend the grand opening of a business called Sisters Art Gallery at 515 Pembroke Street West. Our MP and MPP were represented, and we were graciously invited into their home, Gwen and Carrie, and introduced us to some great art, some great jewelry and other items. Please support this new business. On December 11th, I was invited to attend, and it was my pleasure to attend the Renfrew County Clerks and Treasurers meeting. Pembroke was the host, and we're always gracious to welcome all of the different clerks, treasurers, and other staff members to our community. On December 12th, I attended the County Council inaugural meeting to bring greetings on behalf of our council. I expressed that we look forward to working with the county on many great initiatives, such as the Warming Center and the Highway 17 initiative. It was very well attended, and it was a great ceremony. On December 16th, it was my pleasure to attend Heritage Manor to kick off the concert there, and I just want to congratulate all those that were involved in the organization of that. The seniors certainly at Heritage Manor enjoyed it. I will be leaving comments about the festivities yesterday in terms of Equinox School and Festival Hall to Councillor Keel, who is our council representative to that particular committee. But I do want to take this opportunity to acknowledge Councillor Keel and all of the great work that he's been doing that hasn't been in history the most easiest committee, trying to forge relationships with other municipalities and trying to forge relationships with different organizers and make it a successful place that has had challenges in the past. I'm aware of those challenges, but yesterday was the evidence that through hard work and dedication, we have a cultural art facility that's second to none, and so I just want to congratulate you for constantly being an advocate for that particular festival and that particular festival hall and that particular facility. That's the word I was looking for. And I want to conclude by taking this opportunity to wish all council members, all staff members, the public at large a very warm, blessed Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. So I just want to not congratulate, but wish you a very Merry Christmas. And so with that, are there any notices of motion this evening? Seeing none, councillor updates. Councillor Giacono.
Your Worship, with your very busy schedule, I know that you probably missed the one that we were at today, the Sylvester celebration of over 90 years in business. Peter Sylvester Kitchen and Bath. My dad had the pleasure of working there years ago in the 50s. They built a lot of homes in the city of Pembroke. They've done a lot of kitchen retro works, so they're a well-established business. I believe, Your Worship, you said 4 generations of the Sylvesters are continuing, so we wish them the best, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Giacono. Councillor Fenye.
The seniors concerts were held this past weekend, and I just want to congratulate Deputy Mayor Abdallah. Even though he is not on the Recreation Committee anymore and he's not on the Seniors Advisory, he continues to advocate, and he always remembers who he doesn't want to forget. So he's the one that actually was instrumental in organizing the original seniors concerts that are taking place through all the seniors' homes every Christmas. So I just want to say, you know, I do want to thank you on behalf of all of those individuals that enjoy the concerts. And I know they were a success again this past weekend, and if it wasn't for you, I don't know that they would have happened. So full credit to you, okay? Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Merry Christmas.
Councillor Keel.
So I will start, Your Worship, on the Festival Hall rededication. It was a fantastic event. There were all the representatives from Petawawa and Laurentian Valley and myself were there. Murray Roots is the chair of our Festival Hall Consortium. Your Worship was there, MPP John Yakubuski. So many people from the Equinox School and the school board. The deputy mayor was also there as well. It was a great, they put on the kids from the school put on a performance that was very entertaining. I will have to admit a certain deficit in French, so the deputy mayor might have to tell us what the skit was about. But to see the kids on that stage, and the mayor talked about the partnership that we have with the school board. You know, I went to Laurentian for my 8 years of elementary school, and for you to have the ability to not just perform in your gym or in front of a classroom, but to have a state-of-the-art theater attached to your school, I have no doubt that that is partly what invigorated those kids to put on such a great and energetic performance. I really couldn't say enough thanks to the mayor for putting me on this particular committee. It has been great working with Councillor King and Councillor Roots. Rick Wharton is our managing director. I think it's fairly public knowledge that Rick had a fairly substantial health scare towards the end of the summer. We've just really recently gotten him back to a full health, and he continued to work through it. We almost get a partnership with his wife Lorelei, who in many ways took the reins while Rick was in hospital. I'll have more to report generally on Festival Hall in January, but the number of events that happened this year, I hope I've been keeping council and the people watching up to date. But it was really nice to be able to celebrate, I guess I'm going to call it a rededication. So we do Thanks again to the school board. Everybody will see that the outer facade of Festival Hall has been painted at no cost to the municipalities. A new sign, an illuminated sign this time, has been put up, and it looks absolutely wonderful to everybody coming in. So I certainly thank the French School Board and everybody that participated, and for those people that came out. In terms of the more traditional Festival Hall update, I can tell everybody that if you're still looking for stocking stuffers, Hotel California is coming on January 9th. Probably a tribute band of some sort. Let's not get too excited, but I'm sure it will be great. And so that's coming up on January 9th. There's still tickets available. And the other thing that I want to mention is that on February 10th, Kitchissippi, our own Kitchissippi Productions, is putting on an Ottawa Valley talent show. You still have several days to make your submissions if you have a talent that we're not aware of. So submissions get submitted, and then the top contenders at Festival Hall on February 10th will all be competing in front of judges. I can tell you I already have my ticket purchased for that event, and I'm sure that if we spread the word and we get the local talent out, that could be one heck of a good show, because the talent that we have, and the stage talent and performing talents that we have here in Renfrew County, I think are second to none. In that light, I thought, since we are in the spirit of good cheer, and hoping that everybody around this table will take this with the tongue-in-cheek and happiness that it was written with, I have tried my own bit of work in creating a poem for us for the holiday season. So we'll give this a go. I think everyone will have a humor involved. So, Your Worship, 'twas the week before Christmas, and all through City Hall, every department was buzzing, staff having a ball. The council was ready for one final year's meeting, with a hope that its end would be sometime this evening. As one year concludes and another begins, with budgets and pools making councillors' heads spin, the treasurer works hard crafting a lean budget to submit, and the deputy mayor is screaming, "Transit! Transit!" From council to committees to consortiums and more, the life of a councillor is far from a bore. We try to do our best without disrespect or disorder, and if we're lucky, we'll do it without a single point of order. As the night progresses on, each councillor thinks ahead, to moving from motions to each one's warm bed. The mayor's looking forward to getting home for TV. Any channel will do, he says, except the CBC. With 1 year down and 3 to go, this term kicked off with a bang and shed the status quo. We may not always agree, democracy can be fraught, but this year this council accomplished a hell of a lot. Backyard fires, transparency, and rideshare, oh my. No one will tell this councillor his platform was pie in the sky. Onto parks, into planning, operations galore. Let's see how many roads we can detour in 2024. Happy holidays to Lafreniere, Jacquinot, and Abdallah, as well as to Plummer, Purcell, and Mayor Jerva. To the staff and the residents that have supported us all year, may 2024 bring you nothing but happiness and a whole lot of good cheer. Happy holidays.
I have some.
You, Mayor.
Well, I don't have any poem like that, but
No, I think we
anyhow,
need to call it the meeting over after
Yeah.
that.
I just have a few items here. Last Friday was the downtown holiday edition shop hop with the PBA, and of course Bethia Summers was there, but also the Miss Sutherland was there giving out downtown dollars. So here's a city employee working on a Friday night, and then on the Saturday I ran into Miss Sutherland again at the Taste of the Valley. So I want to put a shout out to her and staff. And you talk about partnerships, the PBA, the city, and the County of Renfrew and the City of Pembroke. Taste of the Valley was phenomenal. And I think it was the first time it was in Pembroke in a while at Germania Club, and it was a great event. And thank God for the iPhone with the debit card on it. I mean, that's the handiest thing they invented. the seniors' Christmas concerts, these started from the committee, the rec committee from last term, and Louis Schreier and his friends do 7 shows in 2 days. And the funding for that comes from the family youth budget, from the recreation budget. So it's very important. And I just want to thank council for supporting these concerts. And I ran into a former, my Uncle Hassan, I hadn't seen her in years, and I felt guilty, you know. And Grace Leach was there, and she was a girlfriend of my Uncle Hass, and I'm going to go visit her now regularly, and I'd lost track of her, and she's there, and she was in the front row, and it means so much to the seniors community for these concerts, and so I just want to thank council for supporting that. I also want to thank Holly McDonald, who's the manager of Heritage. She was on our former Seniors Advisory Committee. Holly and Louis coordinate all the scheduling, so special thanks to Holly McDonald. And I just want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas from my wife Mary and I, and Happy New Year, and let's not forget to help those in need when we can. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, confirming bylaw, Councillor Keel.
This one's not going to rhyme. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Purcell, that bylaw 30/2023 to confirm the proceedings of the meeting of council of December 19th, 2023 be adopted and passed, and further that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Keel, seconded by Councillor Purcell, that bylaw 30/2023 to confirm the proceedings of the meeting of council of December 19th, 2023 be adopted and passed, and further that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Those in favor? That is carried. A motion to adjourn. I have Councillor Frenier, seconded by Councillor Keel. Those in favor? We are adjourned. Thank you.